Lou built her tiny house in northern New South Wales on a 7.2 metre flat top trailer with the help of her partner and her friend who's a tradie. In the interview, she tells us what it was like to build her tiny house with no prior building skills or knowledge of the building trade. We talk about planning the tiny house by drawing it on paper because she didn't want to use SketchUp. And she gives us a breakdown of her budget, how she made the tiny house roadworthy and managed the weight considerations of staying under 4.5 tonne. And she offers up some great advice for anybody who's embarking on their tiny house build. So there's a lot of really juicy info in this interview for you to mine for your tiny house build. We pick up the interview where I had just asked her about designing the tiny house.
I mean, the design, I probably spent 5 months on the design process, and that was almost, every day doing something, thinking about it, looking at videos, looking at other designs, drawing it out on the beach or taping it out in the car park down at the shops, walking around trying to anticipate how you are going to want to live for the next 20 years, I guess. And I guess unlike a regular house, you're not just creating an open space, you're deciding where all your furniture is going to go forever, which is a weird concept. You won't really get a chance to move stuff around too much.
No, not like a couch that you can change the orientation of, or put the TV somewhere else or anything like that.
Soft furnishings, I think, are going to get a bit of a change every few years, maybe. Cushion covers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a big design, requirement, isn't it? Tiny space.
It's a commitment. Yeah. Just, I always read everything to the 10th degree anyway. I'm used to that with my work. So I just would look into things. And I think I needed to, because I was starting from zero, really, not even knowing even how to decide what kind of windows you want, how many, how big should they be, where should they be. It took me a month to finalize the window order. And then, because that's one of the first things you do, which I didn't realize, you got to order your windows maybe, 5 or 6 weeks or a couple of months before you start your build, because that's how long they can take to come if you are getting new windows anyway. I
often say to people, get your windows at the same time as you get your trailer, because you're waiting about the same amount of time.
That's good advice. Yeah.
And did you get standard windows or did you get them custom dimensions?
I heard that you had to get them in increments of, I think, 300 mils or something like that. And I think Stegbar maybe had those kind of requirements. But the company I went through, they said they basically make all their windows custom anyway, so it didn't matter. There was a great rep for this area who actually sat down with me for about an hour and a half when I was trying to nut it out, and was really into tiny houses and minimalist living himself. So he was really passionate about the project, which is something I found all the way along. Whenever I mentioned something was for a tiny house, people were just suddenly excited and wanted to help, and that was really nice. But the window guy, he just said, get what you want. And I guess I wanted to maximize light and airflow living in northern New South Wales. And awning windows seemed to make us, I don't have any eaves on the tiny house because that would reduce my inside living space. So to be able to have the windows open when it was raining is really important, because we get most of our rain up here in summer. So that was an essential thing. And also to have a gas window. I was going to have 2, but they're very expensive. The one I have is I think it's 1,500 wide by 900 high, and they were about $2,300. So I got 1, which is fine, and I'm glad I didn't get 2 now, because 1 is definitely ample. But that's just really a lovely feature because it opens up the whole space. And when you've only got a space that's 2.2 meters wide, it's really nice to have something like that that brings the outdoors in. And I guess people accomplish that with sliding doors as well. But I only had a glass door, so the gas strut kind of does that for me.
Yeah, it's a lovely design feature. I love it that people will be able to sit on either side of your bench and chat, and also just be
Yeah.
under a little bit of shade if it's a little drizzly. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned money before. Do you mind telling me about your projected costs and then like what you think it probably actually did cost?
No, sure. I mean, I've been monitoring this all the way along. I kind of kept tabs on how much I was spending on what, and I don't have the costings right there, but I went through how much the materials cost, how much we had to spend on tradies like electricians and plumbers. The total cost in the end was just under 80 grand. I was hoping it was going to be around 60, but I mean, I know where the money went, and I guess there were some things that were more expensive than I thought. The stairs, because we outsourced the building of those to a furniture maker, they cost about 6.5 grand. But when you think about it, the trailer's about 13 grand. The windows cost about 7 grand, so that's 20 grand already. And then tradies, electricians, and plumbers, that cost, I think, probably 6 grand between the two of them. So it's, even though you DIY, I mean, it's still a lot, a lot cheaper than buying any kind of property, even a small apartment in this area or anywhere else really I know of. And I'm happy with that. I wanted to have a house that was going to be my forever home. And I guess the lovely thing about tiny houses is that you've got small quantities, so you can get quality materials. The poplar ply for the ceiling was a bit more expensive, I guess, but I wanted that because it had soy glue and it was a lovely light color. And I don't have any light fittings in the ceiling because I really wanted the spaciousness of just a clear ceiling above, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't notice that until you've said it, but it's very clean lines with no lights.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got down lights in the kitchen because that's kind of task lighting. Lighting is another thing that's really complicated when what was interesting was that throughout the build, I'd be looking at other people's houses and houses even in the street as I was going for walks in different ways. And if we were up to the roofing, I'd be looking at, oh, okay, so there's fascia underneath the gutters, and that's how, I'd never really paid attention to all these details of houses before. And then when you look at lighting, you're looking at everything you watch on YouTube or on other tiny house videos, or when you go to someone's houses, like, well, what lights do you have? And I mean, on my previous house when I was renting, I basically never used the down lights except in the kitchen. I always had lamps. And so I realized that I didn't really need to have all those, they're glary. And I've realized that in a tiny house too, you want to separate spaces. And so lighting's a really good way to do that. So you have you can't have walls because there's not enough space, but you can create different feeling in different corners of the place by different lights. And it's just funny how your mind will tune in to certain things at different times: the lights, the windows, the stairs, the curtains and blinds, or sinks, kitchen sinks and kitchen bench tops, and how high does a kitchen bench top have to be and how wide is it. And I guess that's the thing about, you realize there are so many standard measurements for things in houses as well, and that's helpful because you don't have to reinvent the wheel for everything. And it also was interesting that in the tiny house you had to kind of amend things a little bit, but I still had the standard bench width in my kitchen, and I was amazed at how much space there is between the two benches.
Yeah, well, you went for the 2400 wide, didn't you? So that you don't have the fold down awnings.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the inside is a bit over 2,200.
And you haven't done anything to
Yeah.
kind of block or interrupt that space. So it's a real flow through, and it
Mm.
looks like you could spin around and be doing something on the other bench really easily.
Yeah, actually, that is one of the things I've had to get used to living here, because at first I was making myself dizzy because I would turn around to do something at the sink, then I have to get something at the other bench, and then I have to go something. And if you keep going around, yeah, you'd have to kind of make sure you only turned in one direction because it was. And now I'm learning to kind of get a whole lot of things out and then turn around. And I think what's also interesting was moving into that house before we really finished some of the main features like the stairs and the desk, and just to see how your body uses a space just naturally. You have thoughts about things, and I guess that's the thing about designing on paper before you even build anything. You don't necessarily know how you're going to fit in a space, but I think we did it pretty well. My partner and I spent a lot of time designing, and then thinking about things along the way as we were going, tweaking things. Oh, maybe we should put this here instead of there. And I think most of the stuff I'm really happy with. I guess I'm really happy that we put the thought into it, and it makes a big difference to me that we did that.
And that you were able to flow with any changes that you wanted to make as you were physically in the space, which you couldn't be when it was in a design phase.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the DIY thing. And, I would have hated to have those awkward conversations with a builder or an architect to kind of, after waking up in the morning, think, actually, I think I want that there instead of there. And, and, that could have happened, 5 times a day. So to just be able to do it with between the two of us, just thinking, and both of us would be waking up in the morning or waking up in the middle of the night thinking, yeah, actually that would be better there.
Yeah, it's so nice. I think a lot of Fred's problem solving particularly happens during his sleep. So he will go to bed puzzling over a problem and then wake up and be like, I've got it. And so it's so nice to let that evolve. Didn't you plan on paper and not even on SketchUp?
Yep, didn't use SketchUp at all. I thought about it and I started to look at using it, but then I realized that it was just going to take so long to get to know how to use it fluently. I kind of like drawing, and so I got some graph paper and a pencil and a rubber, and there was a lot of rubbing out. And I just drew and drew and drew, and I think that also helped me know. It helped me know the house even before it was built inside out, because we had to draw. You have to draw with measurements as well, and I guess that's the graph paper. And we did get some help from a retired builder friend when we were doing the framing, and he's the one who said, oh, Lou, I need to know, how high is that window from the floor and how far is that window from the window next to it. And so I'd drawn it, but I hadn't really known exactly, and so that really pinned me down. So after working on the build all day and maybe making a trip to Bunnings, I'd be home after dinner kind of drawing and measuring, and then I'd turn up with a new drawing the next day and we'd do the framing. But I'd know exactly, he'd just say, oh, how high is that window, how low is that window from the roof line? I'm like, oh, it's like 400 mils. So just knew it so well. I was like the Rain Man of tiny houses. You could have asked me anything. It's probably some of it's faded now, but you could have asked me anything about any part of the tiny house, and I would know exactly what measurement it was, how thick something was, how the glass was tempered in the windows, or it was ridiculous how much information kind of just got sucked into my brain, and I think it's kind of gradually leaking out now. But it was in there for a long time.
That's great. Yes, you were the expert on your tiny house, and because you had to live it, you had to live it in every way in order to make it a reality.
Yeah, You really do. You really have to visualize yourself in it, imagine your life in it. You're imagining how you're going to be using spaces in terms of also people, friends coming over. Where are you going to do, where are you going to have dinner? I don't know, it's just so many. Yeah, it's a very imaginative, creative process. I think that's probably something that I didn't anticipate as much before. I knew it was going to be practical and all about the skills and working things out and the maths you have to use as well. I hadn't used much maths really for the last 40 years or so. So that was interesting. Impressed at tradies and builders. I mean, my respect for tradespeople has just skyrocketed in general when you see them up close and what they're doing. But I think, the maths that they can do in their head often, just adding things up, and that was impressive.
Yeah.
It's really took over my life. I'd say, especially once the trailer arrived and we started building, it's everything else got put on the back burner and it took over my whole life basically. So
how long did it take?
The trailer came at the end of August last year. I think we started working mid-September and then it took about 8 months. I moved in March, so that's probably 6 months. But then there were things that weren't quite finished, so a couple of months after that. Yeah. So I think 8 months. Yeah,
that's
a bit longer than I thought. Yeah,
it's fast for a
but
DIY.
it's fast. A DIY. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people go for years, and I don't think I could have sustained that. I think maybe knowing that it was going to go not too slowly made me I wasn't working, doing paid work. I was just committed everything to this. It was a full-time thing for 8 months, even probably 6 days a week. I tried to have Sundays off. But yeah, as I said, it'd often be working at night as well, or after the day's physical work, you'd be off to Bunnings or the local timber supplier or whatever. And so there was so much to it.
Yeah, it's
so
demanding on so many levels, isn't it? Like physically, financially, emotionally, just in terms of the amount of stuff you've got to hold in your head.
It really is an incredible thing to do, which I would recommend to anybody who had the will and the resources to do it, because it's just so rewarding. And every morning I wake up in the house just feeling just so grateful that I had the chance to do it, and kind of satisfied that I did do it, or that, my partner and I did it together. Definitely not me. I mean, I remember Fred saying in the workshop, you don't build a tiny house on your own. I guess maybe if you were super skilled and you're already a tradie or a builder, you would. But I think that's one of the lovely things, that a lot of people wanted to help and be involved in some way, even if it was just helping lift up the roof sheeting onto the roof, or helping with some painting, or making snacks for us to sustain us through the hot summer days. It was so lovely. And there's something about a tiny house, I'm sure you've come across this as well. It's like a tree house or a cabin. It seems to, it's fun. Yeah,
it's fun.
Playful,
it's a playfulness and fun.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, little stairs, and what do you do up here? And look at this cute little shelf.
And it's kind of like magic, because it's small and yet it's human-sized. You've got everything in your right dimensions for a grown-up. It's not a cubby. It's not just for children.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of, maybe it is like a kind of wonder that you're an adult, but you sleep in a loft. And
yes, because it does actually shed water. It's not just a dune strung over the back of two chairs. You're supposed to climb it.
Yes. It's not the kind of place that you run into the real house after it starts raining because your place, your tiny house, is leaking or whatever. But definitely, it's still a house. It's not a caravan. A lot of people, when they first see it, they say, oh, it's big, and I think they're expecting a caravan. They don't expect it to be so high, I suppose. And that it is still a house, and it still has all the elements of a regular house in terms of a build, and in terms of framing and cladding and electricals, and all the wiring and the plumbing. And I mean, different with a compost toilet, but then you still need to have an outfall for your grey water. You still have a shower, and you still have to put windows in the same way. You still need architraves around the windows, and making it so that it does resist the weather, and it sheds water, and it's insulated, and it performs, it functions like a real house rather than being just a summer house or a place you have a holiday in. It's still got
It's got
to
to be all weather,
shield you from
all
the
year.
elements, and you've still got to be able to cook in it. And I had to have a workspace so I could work here. I had to, you want to have friends over, so it's a multifunctional place like any house, and yet it's smaller, so you've got constraints like with any build.
I'm just assuming that yours is a roadworthy vehicle. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's built on a triaxle trailer. So I got the 7.2 meter flat top. Yep, it doesn't have the wheel arches. And I built it to the VSB1 regulation, the caravan standard. So all those things that I learned in Fred's workshop, that you have to have the front door opening outwards, has to be on the left as you're pointing forward, like a passenger side. Referred to that quite often. And I guess in terms of the width and the height, it's definitely within roadworthy dimensions. I know some people make their tiny houses 3 meters wide instead of the regular 2.4, but I just didn't want to risk that. I don't know, I kind of tossed it up, but I decided that it was important to me to keep it within caravan regulations legally, so that it can be classified as a caravan if there is any problem with council regulations at some point. So we're lucky in New South Wales that you can live full-time in a caravan if there's a permanent dwelling on the same block and you're a member of the household, which is a fairly vague term, but that's what's allowed me to live here.
It's really great the state of New South Wales has made that sort of general approach, because here it's really up to every single local council to make decisions about how people are allowed to use caravans, and of course they put limits on it without a great deal of reason. And I did want to ask you too, because there's a couple of things that I realised that I don't know about your house, even though we've chatted many times. I don't know if it's off-grid or not.
It's not off-grid at the moment. It's because I kind of ran out of money I've got to save up to get solar. So at the moment I'm getting my water and power from the main house. So I dug a ditch under the driveway and I've plugged into the main house, which is on solar power anyway. And I get water from the house's rainwater tank. They sometimes go to mains water when there's no rain. We're in drought. And my grey water goes into the garden, so that isn't connected to a mains sewage system or anything. And I have a composting toilet, which is a DIY bucket system, and I empty that into the compost bins, and then that's mixed with horse manure, and then that sits for a while, and that'll go on the fruit trees eventually. So so that's I didn't get one of the expensive manufactured commercial compost toilets for that reason. Just wanted to keep it simple. What else? So I will have a solar rack probably, or a shed with solar panels on it, because I've decided that I don't want to park the tiny house in the full sun ever, because when I was building it I did realize how hot it was up there. Even though a white roof and insulation in the roof and the walls and lots of windows, I still think it's going to be quite warm up there in summer. So the spot I'm parked in at the moment has a lot of shade, especially in the afternoons, which is good in summer. And so I'm hoping that when I do have to move it, I'll be able to find a shady spot, and then I can put a solar, a rack of solar panels or a shed with solar panels on it in a sunny spot, and I can even, change the orientation for different seasons to maximise the solar gains. I'm only going to be here temporarily, I guess, and then once I find a permanent spot, I'll get a rainwater tank as well. So I am aiming to be off-grid.
Is there anything that you want to say to anybody who's just about to launch off into their DIY tiny house project?
I think be kind to yourself, maybe. It's really hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, probably, and it will consume you. And I think that's really intense and wonderful in lots of ways, but it's also it breaks you sometimes. And I think that's what I've learned as well, just managing your own emotional state, psychological state. And I learned to do that. I tried to swim in the lake every morning before coming to work, and I had time to myself in that way, or in nature, most mornings, and just and I guess also, I've learned so much that I wish I had applied. Things like don't worry so much, maybe. I worried a lot, and I was anxious about every little thing. And I think that was partly my inexperience, because sometimes I didn't know that you don't realize that things are going to be corrected later in the final stage, but you'd see something, you'd think, oh no, and we've wrecked this, but it would be fine because we'd paint over something, or you wouldn't be able to see this, or you'd just adjust to it, or it wouldn't matter, or I guess also just everything takes longer than you think. Even just little things where you think, oh, just do these 3 jobs today. Well, it might take you 2 days to do them, or 3 days. Like the setup for things, planning stuff. And I think often doing the thing doesn't take very long, but figuring it out takes a long time. And especially when you're not experienced, woodworking stuff, like figuring out how to make shelves. You watch someone on YouTube and they do it in a couple of hours. But then when you come to do it, you've got to figure out, okay, well, is that bit of wood going to be on the outside or the inside? Or how do I hide those screw holes? Or there's so many little bits and pieces. And I just think just prepare, be prepared before you start building as much as you can. Just draw things, research things as much as you can. I think trying to make decisions on the hop, it can be quite stressful, and often you have to make decisions before you think you need to make them, because you're working with a tradie and they say, oh, where are your kitchen cabinets ending here? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think I'd have to make that decision for another 2 months. And but you have to quickly go and figure out, okay, I need this many drawers and this many, and okay, here it is. And so if you can make as many decisions as you can, or at least get a short list of your options, and get to understand what you like and don't like, that makes decision making later down the track as well. What else? There's so much. Just I think also try to enjoy the process. I tried to do that, just stop now and then and just look around, because everything's changing all the time. And, like when we got the frame up, it's like, oh, wow. And then the bracing ply went on, and then the cladding and everything, and then you don't see the frame anymore, and you never will see it again. And so all these things are changing all the time. And even now, when I look at the house, I look back at the photos, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember when, before we painted the walls, and before we even put the wiring on, and then just there's so many stages to it that I don't know, try and enjoy it as it goes, because it will be over quick, as faster than you know. And then you'll have a beautiful little tiny house to live in, but you want to make the most of the process as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely advice.
I'm sure there's lots more practical stuff I should know. I should be able to pass on how to use power tools. I mean, get some skills before. I definitely recommend that, using power tools, woodworking, and even just I would also recommend practicing on some small projects before you start. I wish I did more of that, but yeah, just like make a shelf or a box or something or something little, and just start to get your confidence with using power tools if you haven't used them before, as I haven't.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm.
And I realise we haven't addressed the topic of weight at all.
I think my total weight for the tiny before I moved in was about 3,800 kilos. But I was watching it all the time, and there were a couple of heavy items like the timber slab bench top, was probably about 100 kilos. I think the stairs, you can see, they were probably about 100 kilos. The kitchen cabinets were really heavy, from Caboodle, heavier than I really realized they would be. So there were a few, I kind of had a weight budget, I suppose, and I'd spend weight with some things that I wanted to have, like the stairs and the timber slab bench top. And then I'd try and make up for it by choosing super lightweight things like the lightweight acrylic shower walls and base, and really lightweight ply, not pine ply, but a falcata ply, which is, I'm not sure what kind of wood that is, but it was much lighter than pine. So yeah, just, and I was monitoring the weight. I'd try to ask a supplier, like I asked a window supplier, how heavy all my 13 windows were. So I wrote those things down as we went, and tried to find weights. I'm sure there's lots of things I've probably missed, and maybe it's a bit heavier. I'm hoping it wouldn't be more than 4 tons without my stuff in it.
Yeah.
But I haven't weighed it. So yeah, that was definitely a consideration all the way along. So, and that was one of the reasons I chose Western Red Cedar for the cladding, because that is super light, as well as looking beautiful, and corrugated iron, the color bond as well. So yeah,
that's really helpful. Thank you.
Oh,
thanks so much. It's just been such a pleasure, and I just love your house.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Yeah, I know that you get it, so that means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
You can catch Lou on her blog, noimpactgirl.com. And there's also a Facebook page, No Impact Girl. The links are in the show notes. To see the tour of Lou's tiny house, go to the Fred's Tiny Houses YouTube channel. Candid Tiny House is brought to you by Fred's Tiny Houses and Tiny House University with the course How to Build a Tiny House, the Australian online course. All of the people that we interview in this series have attended one of those courses or done it online and built on a Fred's Tiny Houses trailer. The music for Candid Tiny House is by Scott Buckley. I'm Shannon Schultz. This episode was recorded and edited on Jara country, and we pay our respects and appreciation to the custodians of the land and the living culture of the Dja Dja Wurrung people. Please share this episode with anybody that you think might enjoy it. Stay candid.